Nothing to hide, and I'm going to break it straight down the pipe for you, face to face.
Being tough gets you hurt. This is a sharp game, a skill game, a chess game, and I think people see that.
Lost that fight, walking out of the ring. What were your memories? What did you think?
Boxing's a lot tougher than I expected.
You don't even know. You don't know my ability though.
That's true. That's true.
You don't.
That's true. I don't know where you might go. I just give you where I think you're at, which I'm entitled to, which is average. Average is very complimentary.
The Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua face-to-face interview delivers an intense look at two fighters from very different worlds. Jake Paul, the YouTube star turned boxer, confronts former heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua with confidence and bravado. Joshua remains calm, sizing up Paul's challenge with veteran focus. Meanwhile, Paul acknowledged that Joshua's size, skill, and championship mindset make him a serious challenge. He didn't hide his respect, saying he knows this might be his toughest fight yet, but he's ready to prove himself.
This relentless style, this forward pressure, taking lots of damage and not giving a fuck and returning that damage more than what his opponents are giving him. And that...
With the fight now officially sanctioned for December 19th, anticipation has reached a new level. Jake Paul emphasized that this isn't just another celebrity boxing match. It's a real test against a former unified heavyweight champion. He admitted that stepping into the ring with Joshua is a massive risk, but insisted that greatness requires taking bold chances. Joshua, meanwhile, remained composed and confident, praising Jake's business acumen and work ethic, but reminding everyone that experience matters. He stated clearly that once the bell rings, respect fades and instincts take over. Both fighters agreed that this matchup will change careers. Either Jake shocks the world or Joshua reaffirms his dominance.
So I like the challenge. People, that's the criticism. Fight someone in their prime who's a beast. I think people just want to see me lose. That's really what the message is behind it all. And Anthony Joshua is an insane fight, but I want that challenge. We've been DMing back and forth. He wants to make it happen. He called me up, and it's looking very likely for next year.
I want to fight Anthony Joshua exclusive because I know that I will beat Anthony Joshua. I know I will beat. Knocked out, right? Yeah. He doesn't have a chin and he has no skill and he's stiff. And I love you, Anthony. We're friends. But I want to fight you.
Former UFC champion Michael Bisping weighed in on the matchup, calling it a win-win situation for Jake Paul. He argues that even if Paul were to lose, he'd still walk away with serious respect for daring to face a former heavyweight world champion. Bisping believes taking on Joshua would prove Paul isn't just playing celebrity boxing. He's willing to take real risks. And if Paul somehow pulls off a win, it would elevate him to a whole new level of legitimacy in the sport. This kind of high-stakes opportunity, according to Bisping, is exactly the kind of calculated risk Paul should be applauded for. On the other hand, this fight could also be a lose-lose for Anthony Joshua. If Joshua wins, many will criticize him for taking an easy, low-risk payday against a social media star rather than focusing on top-tier boxing competition. But if he loses, his legacy could take a huge hit. Being beaten by an influencer-turned boxer would damage his reputation and make fans question his future in the sport.
The reason I say it's a win-win for Jake Paul is because, listen, if he wins, then he's beating a former heavyweight boxing world champion, certainly one of the best heavyweights of his generation, and of course, a man that is way bigger than Jake Paul. Of course, it's a win. And if he loses, it's still a win for Jake Paul because he had the balls. He was man enough. He was willing to test himself. He would prove everyone wrong, all his critics, like me. And by the way, I'm not like out there on an island by myself. Everyone says the same thing. And he would potentially prove all of those critics wrong. Well, yeah, he would, maybe, unless there's some funny business, right? And for Anthony Joshua, as I said, this is kind of a lose-lose, right? Because if he wins, people are still going to say, well, you only beat Jake Paul, right? The man that lost to Tommy Fury, after all, right? That's the only loss in his record, Tommy Fury. You're telling me that Tommy Fury's going to beat him and then Anthony Joshua's not going to beat him? So if he beats him, he gets no credit. And if he loses, then holy sh**. Can you imagine? That would be the biggest downfall of any boxer's career. The reality is, He's not going to lose. There is no way on this earth that Jake Paul can beat Anthony Joshua in a boxing match. That's just a fact, okay? Look at what he did to Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou hits as hard as a Ford Escort, going 100 miles an hour or whatever that stat was. Comes from the UFC. He was the UFC heavyweight champion of the world. Has a good go against Tyson Fury, but goes up against Anthony Joshua and gets flatlined. Every single punch that was thrown was landed, and every punch that landed put Francis Ngannou down, okay? So to stand there and think that Jake Paul, who's much, much smaller, who has way less experience, that doesn't weigh anything near him, is going to have a chance, and not to mention...
Either way, the fight feels more like a business move than a legacy-defining moment for Joshua. One of the biggest factors in this fight is the weight difference between the two fighters. Jake Paul reportedly weighed almost 200 pounds for his fight against Mike Tyson, while Anthony Joshua usually fights in the heavyweight range of 252 to 255 pounds.
Going to be. I legit think it was probably close to happening. Now you're telling me there were discussions and potentially, signed to fight Gervonta Tank Davis. And again, I do believe the reason for that is Jake's massive size advantage. Again, that's like a 100-pound weight advantage. How would that even work? Like, how do you even... Never mind. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because it's not official and I don't think it's happening. So let's just not even broach that subject. But let's talk about the Anthony Joshua fight. And I want to hear the clip again because I just can't believe what I'm hearing. Let's play it again.
I know my boundaries. I want to fight Anthony Joshua exclusive because I know that I will fucking beat Anthony Joshua's ass. I know I will just got knocked out, right? Yeah. He doesn't have a chin and he has no skill and he's stiff. And I love you, Anthony. We're friends. All this shit, but I want to fight you.
So Jake says he wants to fight Anthony Joshua. He says he's gonna beat Anthony Joshua's ass. That he doesn't have a chin. That he has no skill. And that he's stiff. And then you hear Derek again with the porn creeper stash chime in. Didn't he just get knocked out? Yeah, by Daniel Dubois, who is a reigning heavyweight champion of the world. Not that that means anything at all, I don't guess. Yeah, Jake's just flat out wrong here with a lot of his critiques of Anthony Joshua in comparison to himself. Like, if you want to say for the elite heavyweights in the world that Anthony Joshua has a little bit less skill and is more stiff than they are, then okay, but Anthony Joshua is still an elite heavyweight in the world. And then to go as far as to say, I will beat Anthony Joshua's ass, that he doesn't have a chin, no skill, he's stiff. Like, again, Jake can have this opinion. And he says that, that we're friends and I love you, but I want to fight you. And Jake may even believe that, but he's just wrong. Like, Anthony Joshua took heavy shots against Daniel Dubois before he was knocked out, and really, the reason he was knocked out is because he got in a firefight and threw an uppercut as a lead because Ben Davidson was...
Anthony Joshua has fought some of the biggest names in boxing. He has far more experience than Jake Paul, and Joe Rogan has pointed this out in discussions about the potential fight. Joshua has been in wars against elite fighters while Paul is still new to the sport.
Coming into his own, man. That's what that is. He's only like 27. That guy's fucking scary. He's dangerous. Going into that fight, it seems like he believed that he was just going to dominate him. He was so aggressive. He was just in the pocket constantly, just forcing Joshua to go to war. It was wild.
Everybody was like, look, to Joshua, I think you're done.
Right after he knocks out Francis Ngannou, and it's like, everyone's like, you're back.
Yeah.
Flattened Francis Ngannou, and everyone's like, oh, Joshua's back.
Dana White's take on Jake Paul has been pretty dismissive. He says he stopped paying attention to him after Paul lost to a real boxer. White doesn't have much respect for Paul's boxing fights, calling earlier matchups pay-per-view events. He also laughed off legal threats from Paul's team over accusations of fixed fights, saying Paul's fights are often not legitimate fights, even if he doesn't believe they're fixed.
The fight that's reportedly being worked on for December 19th in Miami.
Did I see the fight being worked on December 19th in Miami?
Yeah.
No.
Do you know which fight I'm talking about?
No.
Fair enough.
Oh, Jesus. That's a fucking bad idea. That's a bad idea. But let me tell you what. A lot of people watch that one.
Will you watch it?
Sure. You know what everybody's tuning in for on that one. I think everybody's going to get what they find.
Tommy Fury strongly dismissed the idea of Jake Paul fighting Anthony Joshua, calling Paul's ambitions laughable. He reminded fans that he beat Paul even when his own hand was badly injured, using that victory to undermine Paul's confidence and credibility. Fury questioned Paul's worthiness of such a big fight and implied Joshua would have little to gain from it. He even floated the theory that Joshua might be paid off if the fight lasts too long, saying he doubts Paul could truly challenge a heavyweight of Joshua's caliber.
Can beat Jake Paul. And excuse my French, what the fuck is Anthony Joshua going to do to Jake Paul? I think my dad said that AJ could beat him with his prick, and I completely will back that up. Even if AJ had a broken arm in there, it still wouldn't go past a minute. To be quite honest with you, and as a safety aspect, there's no way that fight can go ahead. At the end of the day, my God, how good does it make me look? He gets beat by Jake Paul. Well, that automatically makes me two-time heavyweight champion of the world, doesn't it? There's no proper way. I've got to laugh about it. How are we even talking about this? He got his nut boxed off by me a little over 2 years ago, and now all of a sudden he's talking about fighting Anthony Joshua. It's like, come on. Like, you can't be serious. You can't beat me. I'm not Anthony Joshua, am I? So...
On the contrary, Tyson Fury has made a bold prediction regarding a potential bout between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua. The former heavyweight champion believes that Jake Paul would knock out Joshua, stating, "Jake Paul chins AJ 100%, I'd back him."
You think Jake Paul knocks out Joshua? Seriously?
Jake Paul chins AJ, yes, they fight.
Are you serious?
100%.
Paul calling him out.
I think it's a good fight. I think it's a real fit.
Fury's comments have sparked significant discussion in the boxing community, with many questioning the validity of such a prediction. Jake Paul responded by expressing confidence in his abilities, stating he would 10x the bet, offering £10 million on himself to win the bout.